without overreacting, what did we learn about where the Packers roster is right now after family night?
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. With the playoffs in our rear view, the sports are not sportsing the way that we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We do not want to overreact. We do not want to overreact. We are not going to overreact. What we are going to do is take a snapshot of where this team is right now, today, understanding this can and almost certainly will change. And just because we think something might change doesn't mean A, it will, or B, that it's not important to point out that right now it is this other thing. And that I think understanding where we went from to get to where we go, that was not exactly Dr. Seuss level writing there, is an important piece of all of this. Like, it is important to remember that when Eric Stokes was a rookie, he did not start right away, even though it was obvious that he was going to be the starter at some point very soon. And it was a mistake in retrospect for them not to just have him start over Kevin King from the jump. So this is where the team is right now. And one of the reasons why this is important is there's fantasy reasons. I mean, there's all kinds of tertiary reasons. But when we're trying to project roles, sometimes we can get a little out over our skis. We can get a little too excited about the shiny object. For example, A.J. Dillon outsnapped Marshawn Lloyd 4-1. 21 snaps with the first team, and Marshawn Lloyd had 5. Josh Jacobs is out. We've seen this before. This is where the history is important. In 2020, A.J. Dillon was a second-round pick. The Packers were very excited about him. He was hurt and barely played. It took injuries. It took schematic tweaks for him to get on the field. They were really excited about him. He was a very talented runner coming out of college. And he was running back 3 for basically the whole year. The Packers could have let A.J. Dillon walk and taken their chances in free agency, or in the draft, excuse me. Plenty of backs in the draft. We love Jalen Wright, Isaac Guerrero, Marshawn Lloyd was one of those guys that we really liked for the Packers in this draft. They could have just said, we paid the money for Josh Jacobs to replace Aaron Jones. We're using a premium draft asset on another running back. Why bring back A.J. Dillon on the vet minimum? Yes, you have a special dispensation on the salary cap because of a loophole in the CBA. But the reason you bring A.J. Dillon back is because you think he can be a meaningful part of this team. And you know, our pal Jason Hirschhorn over at The Leap, my co-founder there, sorry, my voice is cracking like I'm in middle school. I'm very under the weather right now. I'm powering through for you guys. Summer colds are the worst. But he mentioned the other day that AJ Dillon is probably going to be running back too. And a lot of the fantasy dude bros got mad about it. Oh, Marshawn Lloyd, AJ Dillon stinks. First of all, no, he doesn't. Second of all, yes, we understand the shiny object is appealing. But right now, AJ Dillon is the entrenched incumbent at RB2. It is a similar situation with receiver. Dontayvion Wicks is the shiny object. All of the advanced stats, folks, love Dontayvion Wicks because the underlying metrics, the charting numbers are awesome. The film bros, these are not derogatory necessarily, by the way, but all of film Twitter loves Dontayvion Wicks because the film is good. He's a good route runner. He creates before the catch, after the catch. Packer fans love Dontayvion Wicks. But it was stark at family night. And Justice Mosqueda over at Acme Packing Company, he charted where everyone, the number of snaps that they got. God bless him. That's the Lord's work. Romeo Doubs got 21 snaps with the first team. Christian Watson got 19 snaps with the first team. Jaden Reed got 16 snaps with the first team. That is your starting receiver room in 11 personnel. Dontayvion Wicks got 6 reps with the first team. 6. And this is not, oh, well, he doesn't need the reps because he's the entrenched guy. He's not. He's not. So everyone is very excited, and I was early on this, not trying to yuck anyone's yum here. If you want to be excited about Dontayvion Wicks, please, I think he's going to be a really good player, but he's got to beat out 2 other players who have shown a lot in the NFL. Certainly Christian Watson has shown dynamic ability. Romeo Doubs is clearly the most trusted receiver in that room right now. That is a big hurdle for Dontayvion Wicks to overcome. And so, we have the shiny object. It's cool to be excited about that. Be excited about that. Again, I'm never going to tell you don't get excited about a player that you want to get excited about, but understand where we are. Right now, he is clearly boundary receiver 3. And in 3 receiver sets, they're going to use Jaden Reed in the slot more often than not because they want him on the field because he's good. And so is Dontayvion Wicks, but so is Jaden Reed. And so they're going to have to find ways to get these guys all on the field together at times. I think, we could see more 4 receiver sets this year, even though that's not really how Matt LaFleur wants to play. But there's just so many guys that let's have some fun here. Put Jaden Reed in the backfield. Get in a 4 receiver set, but put Jaden Reed in the backfield. Have some runs with him. Now we're having fun. Now we're having fun. And then, I don't want to beat a dead horse on the offensive line piece of this, but Jordan Morgan is your starting right guard. Like, that's over. At this moment, this early in the season, for him to be the starter, they released the depth chart. We are not gonna overreact to the depth chart. We're gonna be Bart Simpson. I will not overreact to the depth chart. I will not overreact to the depth chart. I will not overreact to the depth chart. I'm on the chalkboard. I will not overreact to the depth chart. But Jordan Morgan got the most snaps. He right now is your starting right guard. Sorry, Sean Ryan. We talked yesterday about him playing some at center. The more interesting thing to me is who is that next guy. Sean Ryan, clearly your swing interior offensive lineman, can play center or guard. He's a nice piece to have. We know he is a quality interior offensive lineman. By the way, Royce Newman did not get a single rep with the first team. Thank the old gods and the new. But Andre Dillard, 12 snaps at right tackle. Kadeem Telfort, 8 snaps at right tackle. Caleb Jones, 6 snaps at right tackle. They are searching for a backup tackle right now, and they're not sure they have one. I think this 5 can be better than last year's 5. But I am increasingly concerned that their 7, that their 8 won't be better than last year's 7 or 8 because they don't have a Yosh Nijman on this team. And they had John Runyon Jr. starting. He's a veteran. a really good pass protector for whatever he lacked in the run game. Jordan Morgan is a rookie. So I think he can be, and I think Jordan Morgan can be a Pro Bowl caliber guard. I think he'd be a really good guard now that we've stopped this charade. But they might not have an OT3. Our pal Jason suggested that maybe there could be a reunion with Josh Nijman if he gets cut in Carolina. I think that makes a lot of sense. But I also, there's some weird stuff about how that all went down. There seemed to be some issues with the coaching staff about practice, about role. I'm not sure exactly what was going on there, but there were some reported issues there. I don't know if that's a workable solution, but they need to find one fast, quick, and in a hurry. Now, the defense, there's something interesting to talk about everywhere on this defense based on where the personnel is right now. So we're going to do that next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. I love sports. Oh, I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But the NBA playoffs, that's a long time ago. The NHL playoffs, that's a long time ago. The WNBA is not going to start up for another couple weeks here until the Olympics are over. So we have baseball, and we don't even have preseason football yet. The sports are not sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up a bet anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So go to FanDuel and start making the most out of your summer. Go to our Instagram where we are putting out these numbers. I like Jordan Love over touchdown passes. Easy money. I cashed it last year. We're going to cash it again. A little harder on the Jaden Reed receiving numbers. That it is a very sharp number to me. It's a little less than he had this year. I think it could be very similar to what he had last year. I think Christian Watson's going to get more. I think Luke Musgrave, Josh Jacobs, they're going to get more. But he's got to get his touches too. It's a tough one. But let us know over on our Instagram page what you think is going to happen there. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. Get insights to the best fantasy draft strategies so you can win your league this season. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Family Night showed us defensively what we suspected coming in, that TJ Slayton is ahead of Devonte Wyatt, even if that is a slim margin. Slayton outsnapped Wyatt 15-12. And I don't think it's useful to litigate the Devonte Wyatt pick at this moment. We will have plenty of time to do that in the offseason when the Packers have a decision to make on his fifth-year option. I think if they had to make it right now, they would not pay it. I think that's true for Quay Walker too. That makes it a big season for both of those guys. But at least Quay Walker is a no-doubt starter right now. Devonte Wyatt is not. Now, if Devonte Wyatt becomes the Bryce Huff of interior defenders, someone who ends up playing 40% of snaps, but is a just absolute nails pass rusher, 10 sacks, 12. Like Devonte Wyatt could have had 10 or 12 sacks last year if he would have just finished a couple of pressures a little bit better. If he can do that this year, yeah, you sign him. Like, look at what Bryce Huff just got on the free agent market. Hassan Reddick got a premium draft pick and is going to get a new contract, even though the Jets, noted smart person Joe Douglas botched that scenario, and they still don't have a deal for him. Congratulations to them. But the secondary part of that is Carl Brooks barely played with the first team on Family Night, 3 snaps. And so if Devonte Wyatt is only going to be an interior pass rusher, a sub-package player, where does that leave Carl Brooks, who I think right now is just a better football player? Why is Brooks not playing? Why is not Brooks in that spot? Is it a draft pedigree issue? That would be disappointing. Has Devonte Wyatt taken a step forward? Look, Matt LaFleur said he thought that was there for Devonte Wyatt, who wanted to take a big step forward. It would certainly help him get paid. which again, I don't think is going to happen right now, given the way that they are positioned with him. So TJ Slayton is going to play a lot of first and second down. And certainly I think in that like second and medium to short range, if it's 2nd and 3, TJ Slayton's going to be in there. If it's 2nd and 4, 5, TJ Slayton's probably going to be in there. He's had a really good camp. They really like what he's been doing by all accounts. But when you draft someone like Devonte Wyatt in the first round, you expect them to be not just a starter, an impact starter. He's an impact player in sub-package situations, but he's not an impact player overall right now for the Packers, and that has to change. Speaking of being an impact player, Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie, with the understanding that Edgerrin Cooper was hurt, Tyron Hopper, who was a third-round pick, did not get a single snap with the first-team defense. All Quay Walker and Isaiah McDuffie in the 2 linebacker sets, and then Eric Wilson in some of the base sets. Now, 26-9 was the rep count there. That's about right. Like if you project that out to a season, we're talking about 2/3 of the reps in nickel and 1/3 in true base. It's probably ideally closer to like 75-25. I haven't looked lately to see what the trends are, but my guess is that's probably where they are. And part of that is because teams are playing base really only on first down sometimes and third and shorts. Some second and shorts, but really more third and fourth and shorts. So that allocation of snaps makes some sense, except that you would want a top 100 pick to get a look, to get one play. Now, again, Edgerrin Cooper did not suit up, dealing with a soft tissue injury, which you don't love to see. But he had been working in the nickel. It seems like he and Quay Walker are going to be your nickel linebackers. We didn't get a chance to see him. And I'm starting to wonder if this is going to be like the Eric Stokes situation, where we knew when he was drafted, he was one of the best 2 players, one of the best, however many players they're going to play. Like corner, you play 3. But he doesn't start the season for whatever reason, and we don't see him in the preseason. Remember Eric Stokes, that was such a weird thing. Eric Stokes didn't play in the preseason, but wasn't the no-doubt starter. So then it's like, well, then shouldn't he be playing? If he's not the start, then doesn't he need the reps? He's a rookie. Doesn't he need to play, not just for you to evaluate him, like you obviously think he can be a really good player, but doesn't he need the reps to get better for when he does play? And it took a week and a half for them to realize, oh, well, that's right. We drafted him in the first round because we could not stomach Kevin King being out there anymore. And so then it's like, well, then shouldn't he have been getting more first-team reps in practice? Shouldn't he have been the day 1 starter? You knew all of this. Like I know that we sometimes treat these NFL teams like they're unknowable, like they're these black boxes where they're just impenetrable from all angles, and the light we couldn't possibly get in there and understand it. And that they know because they see them in practice every day. And yet every team, even good teams, screw this up. I'm not saying the Packers are going to screw this up. I'm saying they have. I want to see Edgerrin Cooper. I'm just being a little selfish on that. Quickly, the safety and corners are related because Javon Bullard played 6 reps at nickel corner. And then played another dozen at safety. Ended up playing more snaps than Evan Williams. Bottom of the bond. I am getting close to saying I think that their base packaging, not their base defense because they won't be in base, but their most played defense should be big nickel. And it's even disingenuous to call it that, because Javon Bullard was a nickel corner at Georgia before he became a safety. Play Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney together and put Javon Bullard in the slot. It's his best position. I think he's the best slot corner on this team. He's the kind of interchangeable piece that this defense needs. You can put Xavier McKinney in the slot, in the box, as an overhang defender, anywhere you want him to be, deep half, deep middle. You can do the same thing with Javon Bullard. And then Evan Williams is your more prototypical safety, but you can move him around deep half. Probably don't want him to play deep middle a ton, but you can. And for you to not know exactly, hey, when they line up with Xavier McKinney in the box and Javon Bullard in the slot, you can't be sure that that's how the play is going to go. And maybe Xavier McKinney hauls ass back to the deep middle, deep half. Maybe Javon Bullard does. And Xavier McKinney rolls into that nickel position. One of the best man-to-man cover players at safety in the entire league. I want to see those two on the field together. And I want as many reps from Javon Bullard in the slot as I can get. And then having two other safeties who can play so you can use Xavier McKinney in the slot also. I think that's harder to do if you just have two safeties. That is really appealing to me. All right, we're going to finish with something that is not Packers related directly. That's next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. There are certain non-negotiables that can help keep you on track, like never skip leg day or therapy day. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it can be hard to make time for those things. And even when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables are more important than ever. And even if therapy isn't a non-negotiable for you, it can help you set those priorities, to find those non-negotiables, to keep you in the proper state of mind as often as possible. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day, never skip leg day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On Packers your first listen today. Now go listen to Locked On Fantasy Football. Get daily insights on the best fantasy football draft strategies so you can win your league this season. You can find the link to Locked On Fantasy Football in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The last thing I want to talk about here, Brandon Aiyuk. Now the reporting is more likely than not he is traded. More likely than an extension is getting done, he is traded. And this reminded me of the info we got around Devonte Adams a couple years ago, but we just got it from the receiver doc on Netflix, that he basically knew in August of 21 that he was not coming back. That the offers were just not where they needed to be. And at a certain point, the lowball offers become disrespectful to a point that there's just no coming back from it. And for the 49ers, they have a history of playing hardball with their stars. Deebo Samuel wanted to be traded. Trent Williams currently holding in. Rumors last year that Nick Bosa was unhappy with the way that 2 years ago, his contract negotiations were going, and that maybe he wanted to be traded if they couldn't come to an agreement on an extension in that moment. At a certain point, your relationship becomes irreconcilable. It's not the best way to do business, always trying to squeeze every little dollar out of this. And if the reporting is true, he wants something closer to the Justin Jefferson deal, 30 plus million. They're at like 26. I don't know why they haven't split the difference at this point. Like 28 is a great compromise. Like, what are we worried about? And he's a top 8-10 receiver, but is not going to get the target share in San Francisco that he could get elsewhere. That's fine if you're getting paid. San Francisco is trying to say, oh, well, you're really a 1B, Deebo, all that stuff. Doesn't matter right now. Brandon Aiyuk wants to get paid by a number one. And the thing is I actually have been advocating for, if I'm the 49ers, trading him to a team that wants to give him $30 million. If you don't want to give him $30 million, a team that wants to give him $30 million, if there is one out there, will give you proper draft assets for that. They turned down the 34th overall pick. This is, reported that the Patriots offered that. Maybe they're going to get in and offer something. If the Patriots offer their first round pick, you got to take that. Like that could be the 6th pick. It could be the 4th pick. It could be the 1st pick. The reason I bring this up, though, is I mentioned a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months now, time is a flat circle, that I thought if Brandon Aiyuk is traded, particularly to an AFC team, and that's where it sounds like they'd like to send him, Browns, Steelers, Patriots. I don't know that he changes the outcome in Washington, though I would love that. There was some like, hey, trade him to Las Vegas for Devonte Adams. Would hate that. If, let's say, they trade him to an AFC team and all they get is draft compensation, then this year, are they still the favorites in the NFC? And I have said, I don't think it is as cut and dried as it is right now. Right now, they are in a tier by themselves. If they trade Brandon Aiyuk, and now it looks like when they trade Brandon Aiyuk, if they don't get a quality pass catcher back or an impact defender, which seems unlikely to me, then I think they have solidly moved down a tier. And I've said I think Detroit and Green Bay are in the next tier. The Packers and Lions can each rightfully say, we should have beaten that team in their building. And we will be better this year than we were last year. And each team can rightfully say the 49ers are going to be, and that was with Brandon Aiyuk and Eric Armstead. And for most of the game for the Packers, Dre Greenlaw. He didn't get hurt until the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, Dre Greenlaw on that last possession for the Packers. So Dre Greenlaw probably not going to be back this season. So why would they be just as good as they were last year when they barely beat the Packers and the Lions? That gap is closed, and if they have to trade Brandon Aiyuk, I think that the gap is closed enough where you say they're now in the same tier. Would I still pick them? Yes. The betting markets say that they're about 2.5 points better than any other team in the NFC. Does Brandon Aiyuk close that gap? 2.5 points? He probably does 1.5 or 2. He's a really good player. They don't have anyone else who can handle man coverage with any sort of consistency, not at receiver anyway. I think it would be a pretty big loss. They're still the favorites, but all of a sudden the Packers, the Lions, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Rams, they might have more to say than we originally thought about who wins this NFC. So I'm anxious to see how this all plays itself out because I think it could really benefit the Packers in all of this. Not that Brandon Aiyuk has been a big problem for them. And in fact, you look at that last drive, yes, they did hit a play to Brandon Aiyuk, but the other big play was to Chris Connolly. And then there was another Brock Purdy or multiple Brock Purdy runs where it's like, okay, that's not because of Brandon Aiyuk necessarily. Now he draws attention, but yeah, I don't think that's the reason that they were winning those games, but that's a talent gap. And there is a trickle-down effect to that, where everyone has to slot in now at a little bit higher. Deebo Samuel's got to feature a little bit more heavily. Does that increase workload? Increase injury risk? Of course it does, especially for a player who's been injured. I am predicting the season from hell for the 49ers this year, and it's going to start with the Brandon Aiyuk trade. It is just going to be a harbinger for things to come for this season. I think it's going to be bad. I don't know, like they're going to be a bad team, but I think it's going to be rough for them. I really do. It's just a vibes thing. We'll see. Follow me on Twitter. Back tomorrow. We got Warren Sharp coming this week. We've got Cody Alexander from Match Quarters, The Art of the X. He's been on the show before. Awesome to talk defense with him. So that's coming up later this week on Locked On Packers. Plus a game. We got a bonus episode of Locked On Packers coming because it's a weekend game. We'll go live after because we're sicko football people here. That's what we do. So follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers, Instagram, Locked On Packers, TikTok, Locked On Packers, YouTube, Locked On Packers. So you can stay Locked On Packers.